Hello everyone, in this video we will talk about celebrating diversity. Let's begin. First, I want to introduce Hee-Sung Park. She was born in Korea but she grew up in the United States. While growing up, she says that her classmates reminded her that she was different. But this experience is now a motivation for her to be a teacher who celebrates diversity. Now she is an ESL teacher at a high school in the United States. And she said that she sees the different cultural backgrounds and different first languages of her students as an opportunity to give a lesson to her students. She says that she tries to take into account the different learning styles as well as the different interests at the time of making her lesson plans. Also, she double checks the materials that she will use in class so no one feels offended because the ultimate goal of her in her classroom is to create an inviting environment where all of her students can feel comfortable to learn. So, Hee-Sung Park is a role model of a teacher who celebrates diversity. But what do we mean by diversity? Diversity can be defined depending on the context. And now that we are talking about teaching contents, we will say that diversity is the mix of second language students that we have in our classrooms in terms of backgrounds. This means different ethnicities, religious beliefs, sexual orientations, for languages, learning styles, achievement levels. All of those aspects is what we call diversity in our classroom. Now that we have stated that, let's continue.
Hi, let's continue with this topic. Well, we have talked about diversity as different things to different people, right? But now, let's focus on diversity by considering the following perspectives: teacher awareness and learning styles. We have more perspective, but first let's focus on those ones. Teacher awareness. Maybe you ask, what kind of teacher awareness? Well, now we're talking about teacher awareness of who we are as language teachers. You know that every teacher has a different background. I mean, all of us as language teachers have different previous experience, which now help us to accommodate better the needs and preferences of our students, right? So that awareness helps us as a tool to understand the needs of our students and to accommodate it or to accommodate them on our classroom. Then we have learning styles. You know that not all students learn in the same way. They are totally different. So when we say that a person is a different world, it's right. But in our case, we must say that teachers and students are a different world, each one, because they all learn in a different way. So, learning styles are so important, and to be aware of that is so important too. Because in our classroom, we have two kinds of students. Maybe some of them are field dependent, which means that they need to be immersed of the learning process on the second language. And there are another students that are field independent, which means that they do not need to be immersed because in fact they found and they look for instructions by themselves. So they do not need much our help as teachers. So finally, it is a challenge for teachers to help our students know their learning styles. So we as teachers must be aware of our background in order to help us to understand the needs of our students and then to understand the different learning styles we have in our classroom in order to make our lesson plan more attractive for our students. Well, this is all for me, and to talk about the other perspectives, I give you the word to my classmate. So, thank you.
We are going to continue by talking about communication styles. This is really important since it includes the role of culture, and people from different cultures they view the world differently, and this is an advantage since we can adapt to their way of communicating. That's why it makes a great impact on communication style. Also, we can talk about teachers and students usually frame their language in order to do some activities. However, we as teachers must take that into account in order to teach them not to mix some rules of a language. And we as teachers could be affected by our background. Whenever there is a problem in the classroom, we must know how to solve it, and we must know how to react in order not to affect the class. And we are going to touch base on intelligence, and this is really essential since intelligence had been built as a unitary construct. I'm going to show you Gardner's theory, and that it states that some people have abilities to do some things, but some others do not have those abilities. So every person has distinctive abilities and inclinations to different work. I'm going to show you this chart. As you can see, maybe one person could be really good at using language or presenting ideas. For instance, when being in a presentation, or one person could be really good at persuading others, and that could be in the area of verbal linguistic intelligence. But what about music? Maybe that person who is really good at expressing ideas is not good at playing an instrument. So, as you can see, every person has distinctive abilities and capacities. So, this is what Gardner wanted to state in this theory. And we are going to talk about cross-cultural communication. And cross-cultural communication is one way of becoming proficient in cross-cultural communication by becoming more aware about some problems. And this is really essential. Why? Sometimes we might have some students that come from different cultures, and the color of their skin could be different, the language could be really different, their behavior could be different too. But it doesn't mean that we might despise those people since they come from different cultures. No, we had to help them since that is our role. Because if we practice discrimination against some students, we are not going to play our role. Thank you.
So hello guys, my name is Walter and we are going to learn about classroom implications now. Classroom implications are those activities and environments which are related to the chapter we are explaining now in this video. So let's get started. The first one is spot the difference. It is strongly related to the naturalist intelligence and it is a very simple activity. It mainly consists of three things. First, students will work in pairs. Second, students will have a different item. And third, students will not show their materials to each other. Instead, they will describe. So let's see an example. A student A might have a butterfly and a student B might have a grasshopper. They will not say, oh, I have a butterfly and I have a grasshopper. Instead, they will describe what they have and they will find similarities and differences. This activity is really cool for those who enjoy using their naturalist intelligence since it involves attention to detail and careful observation. Our second activity is Think Right Time. This is strongly connected to the intrapersonal intelligence. And it is really, really important for all students all over the world. We have to understand that not everyone learns in the same way, and not everyone learns at the same pace. Some of our students might need extra time before they can actually talk in front of the class, to their teachers, or to the whole class. So more time must be given to these students. We can do both. We can ask our students, those who have this problem, of course, to think of what they are going to say before they say it, or to write what they are going to say before they actually say it. The advantage of Think Right Time is that the students feel more confident when sharing their ideas. They will be able to learn English in a better way, and it is easier to communicate what they have written than what they have said. And the last one we have is charades and role plays. We all know charades and role plays, that's for sure. But what we might not know is that charades and role plays are related to the bodily kinesthetic intelligence. Charades actually offers us a great opportunity, the opportunity to get our students out of their seats and start moving something more than their mouth. It is really useful since the students can use their hands and whole body to represent uh, individual vocabulary items or any kind of concept. Actually, any kind of concept, or almost any, can be represented using gestures, a hand symbol, or whole body movements. And charades are not the only chance we have. There are also role plays. As you can see in the picture we have, there's a firefighter kid. He, while playing the role of a firefighter, can pretend to have an axe in her hand and break into a house. Of course, he will not have a real axe. That would be so irresponsible from us, but he will pretend and he will use his body to do so. So these charades and role plays are really useful for those students who enjoy using their bodily kinesthetic intelligence. Now, my classmate Sophia will continue talking about classroom implications.
Hi, I will continue talking about the Bloom in group discussions. So, the goal of an educator using Bloom taxonomy is to encourage higher order thought in their students by building up from a lower level cognitive skills. This model supports the need to differentiate the curriculum so all students are able to participate in the same content area during a lesson. This is a teacher's opportunity to be creative since teachers prepare questions and activities related to all levels of the taxonomy and of course related to the content of study. Here is an example of some questions and activities using the Bloom's taxonomy methodology. In this case, I used these 4 categories, the ones that the book contains, but the recent approach contains 6 categories. Talking about spotting the bias for the acquisition of the language, books may provide the basis for the content of the lessons, the balance of skills taught, and the kinds of language practice that the students are going to take part in. For teachers, the material that they are going to use during their classes should be chosen under 4 important conditions. The first one is that they should correspond to learners' needs. The second one, they should match with the objectives of the lesson. The third one, they should reflect the uses which learners will make of the language. And the last one, that they should have a clear role as a support for learning. On the other hand, the content needs to be changed if it doesn't suit the target learners, perhaps because of the factors related to the learner's age, gender, religion, or cultural background. When it comes to building cultural respect in the classroom, teachers who are interested in fostering a cultural awareness in the classroom should demonstrate to their students that they care about their cultural, emotional, and intellectual needs. Schools and teachers have the responsibility to teach all students how to synthesize cultural differences in order to facilitate students' personal and professional success in a diverse world. To sum up with my presentation, I want to say that building cultural respect in the classroom means that students feel safe to express themselves in a manner in which they should be free from judgment and with an understanding that each and everyone is different and thinks differently.
Now let's talk about the role of teachers in celebrating diversity in classrooms. First, the teacher has to become aware of his or her own ethnic or cultural background. Why does a teacher have to be aware of that? It's because by defining his identity, by recognizing that he has or she has her own culture, we can realize that there are also prejudices that we can have due to our culture. The second thing is to establish our own attitudes towards other ethnic and cultural groups. All of this in the base of respect. The third thing is to discover that there is a relationship between language and culture. And the fourth point is to become familiar about prejudice and racism and to avoid it in class. If we know the behaviors that are racist, we will be able to eliminate it or eliminate them off our classrooms more easily. The five aspect we have to take into account is that we need to use materials that reflect all of our students. And number six, we had to get to know all of our students and we had to recognize that not because they have a certain skin tone, they are supposed to behave in a certain way. Now, what about students? Can they play a role in celebrating diversity? They can help the teachers always being respectful to recognize maybe some biases that could be in the materials used in the class or in the textbooks. They can explain the situation to the teacher so that this can be fixed. Number two, they had to respect and welcome all of their classmates despite their being different to them. All of the interactions between the students had to be based on respect. So now to conclude, we had to realize that celebrating diversity means helping our students to feel comfortable enough to be their unique selves, despite them being from a different country, speaking a different first language, or being from a different social class. In a classroom, they all have to feel comfortable enough to be who they truly are and not be discriminated because of that. If we make them feel comfortable enough, they will be able to do what they are supposed to do in our classrooms, which is learning. That has been all for us. Thanks for your attention and Merry Christmas.